Hey everyone, Alyssa here from English Active Listening. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you back for part 2 of our vital series on how to speak English more naturally and truly understand native speakers better. In our last video, we peeled back the first layer of the onion, revealing the big secret. It's not about speaking incredibly fast, but rather mastering the art of connected speech. That wonderful way words link and blend together. Today, we're not just touching on new points. We're diving much deeper into even more practical, real-world tips that will genuinely make a profound difference in your entire English learning journey. Get ready for some fantastic insights. Recently, I had the pleasure of hosting an online meetup event, bringing together wonderful people from all corners of the globe. We were all speaking English naturally, discussing the fascinating world of online business in 2024. As I listened, something truly struck me. The non-native English speakers, while excellent communicators, often used a very textbook kind of English. It was proper, correct, but sometimes a little stiff. They might say, "I am going to the store," pronouncing each word very carefully. Then I heard people who were native speakers, particularly those from the US, and their language was just on a completely different level. They'd say, "I'm gonna go to the store," blending those words effortlessly. As I paid close attention, I started making mental notes of these crucial differences. And I immediately knew I had to share these insights with all of you. Because with these specific tips, you'll be able to shape your English to sound far more like a native speaker. You won't sound, dare I say, a little old-fashioned or overly academic, which can sometimes happen when you stick strictly to textbook rules. With the guidance I'm providing today, by the end of this lesson, your English will feel more native, more natural, more American in style, and definitely more modern. So, if that sounds like something you're aiming for, please keep watching this video right to the very end. Let's kick things off with our very first tip for today, which builds on our previous discussion about connected speech. It's about something called reduced forms. This is a very basic and common aspect of spoken English that you probably already recognize, but perhaps you're not fully using it in your everyday conversations. Let's look at some examples to make this crystal clear. Instead of saying want to, we almost universally say wanna. So if you say, "I want to go to London," or "I want to study in the US," while grammatically perfect, it can sound a little bit stiff or even slightly awkward. It doesn't have that effortless, natural flow that comes with using the reduced form. Think about how much more natural it feels for a native speaker. Try it with me right now. I want to go to London. I want to study in the US. Hear how much smoother and more natural it feels? That's the power of reduced forms. They instantly give your language that authentic flow. This isn't laziness, it's efficiency, and it's how we speak naturally. Let's try another example, and I really encourage you to say these phrases out loud with me. If you want to express, "I am going to wash the car," in natural, everyday speech, you're going to hear and say, "I'm gonna wash the car." Or even more casually, "I'm gonna wash my car." You can really hear the difference, can't you? That "going to" collapses into "gonna," giving the sentence a completely different attitude, a completely different mood and rhythm. Here's another very common reduction that trips people up. When someone asks you, "What time is it?" and you simply don't know the answer, you could say, "I don't know," pronouncing each word distinctly. But again, that sounds a little bit forced. What native speakers almost always say is, "I don't know." Now, here's the fascinating part. That T sound in don't actually often changes to an R sound when it links with no. So you're not actually pronouncing a hard T sound. You're blending it so it sounds like "I don't know." It might seem a bit strange when you first think about it, as if the words are melting into each other. But this is exactly how it works in authentic, natural speech. Try saying it a few times to get the feel. "I don't know." Or another common one, "I don't care." You'll notice that very light R sound in the middle. And for our last example of these fundamental reduced forms, let's look at got to versus gotta. Instead of saying, "I got to do my homework," which is technically correct but much less common in spoken English, we almost always say, "I gotta do my homework," or "we gotta fix it." It's much faster, much more fluid. By the way, you can say, "I got to do my homework" if you're aiming for a British English accent, where got to is sometimes kept more distinct. And this leads me perfectly to my next important tip. My second crucial tip for sounding more natural and fluent is a really important one. You need to decide which accent you want to adopt and then commit to it consistently. This is because English is a global language, and you can speak British English, you can speak Canadian English, you can speak Australian English, or you can speak American English. And let me be absolutely clear, there is nothing wrong with any of those accents. They are all valid, beautiful, and expressive forms of English, each with its own charm. The key is simply that you need to be consistent in your choice. Trying to mix different accent features too much can sometimes make your speech sound a bit unclear, or even confusing to listeners. Personally, I actually started learning English with a British accent, and I truly loved it. I think I can still imitate my British accent pretty well if I try. But honestly, I'm not using it at all in my daily life now. Perhaps if I were to visit Britain for a week, I might naturally switch back to a British accent. But I genuinely prefer the American accent now. I would even go so far as to say that the American accent is perhaps the easiest for learners to access and imitate, simply because there are so many accessible resources available. Think about movies, TV shows, podcasts, and of course, YouTube. If you look at the top 20 YouTubers worldwide, for instance, I think almost all of them will be from the US, offering a wealth of Native American English content. Before we move on to our next powerful tip, I want to share something truly special with you all. By the way, guys, if you are genuinely looking for even more ways to seriously boost your English and speak like a native speaker, I have created an amazing resource just for you, a comprehensive workbook in English. This workbook is absolutely packed with all the rules, tips, and practice you can imagine. We've included real-world idioms, detailed lists of fantastic movies you can watch to practice your American English, and even a curated list of YouTubers and Instagram bloggers that you can follow who vlog daily in English. This will give you a real, unfiltered sense of what authentic, everyday English is truly like. We've included lots of clear, visual examples of how to use different grammar rules, and tons of interactive tasks and tests for you to practice. I poured over 4 months of dedicated work into creating this product, and I truly hope it brings you immense value. The link to find it will be right below this video. It's designed to be incredibly interactive. It even includes an exclusive video from me where I walk you through how to use the workbook effectively. And I even explain the most commonly used tenses in English in a simple, clear way. It's genuinely useful for any English language learner, and it doesn't matter what level you're at right now because it covers almost every crucial topic in English. I honestly think it's going to be a game changer for your learning. The link is below, and I've made it incredibly affordable. It's a very small investment, but it offers a huge amount of value. We've already sold over 20,000 copies and received absolutely amazing reviews from students from all over the world, praising its helpfulness and clarity. So please check it out. The link will be below. And once you get it, do let me know what you think about my workbook. Now, let's move on to our next essential tip. You need to learn to ignore filler words and also learn to use them strategically yourself. What exactly are filler words? They're those little sounds or words we use when we are thinking, or when we need a moment to collect our thoughts. They don't carry much meaning, but they're incredibly common in natural conversation. Let's take a look at a list of some common ones. Actually, anyway, basically, by the way, and or I actually have a funny story about or When I was first learning, I saw written there, and I thought, what on earth does that mean? I started digging through dictionaries, but I couldn't find it. Then I started searching online, and that's when I realized this is just a way to write down the sound people make when they're pausing, like It took me quite a while to figure that out. So if you encounter one of those filler words, don't try to translate them. Just ignore them. Your brain doesn't need to process them for meaning. This is a very important strategy for understanding native speakers better. Don't get stuck on the fillers. Just let them wash over you and focus on the important words around them. At the same time, if you need a moment to think during your own speech, please feel free to insert these filler words. They give you some extra time to think about what you're going to say next without an awkward silence. They make your speech sound more natural, as if you're truly forming your thoughts in real time. Let's look at some other common examples of filler words. I mean, incidentally, in fact, obviously, well, and you know. Now, let's look at a sentence with some of these woven in. By the way, I saw Mark yesterday, and so obviously I said hello to him, but he basically ignored me. You can hear how we have a lot of filler words here that don't really change the main meaning of the sentence. They're just there to help the speaker take a moment to think or to make the conversation feel more natural. Now, let's remove all those filler words and look at that same sentence again. I saw Mark yesterday. I said hello to him, but he ignored me. That's 13 words instead of 20 words. You can clearly see that it makes a big difference, especially if you're struggling to understand everything. By mentally omitting these fillers, you save yourself time. You don't panic because you're trying to understand every single word, and you grasp the main message faster. This simple trick reduces cognitive load and improves your comprehension. The next incredibly important thing, which is also deeply connected to how we deliver our words, is contractions. Contractions are absolutely crucial in spoken English. They are shortcuts that native speakers use all the time, making speech faster and more fluid. Instead of saying, I am, you almost always say, I'm hungry. And listen closely, it's often not even a hard M sound. It's more like a very soft So you might hear hungry or funny. This is the common way to contract I am. Practice saying these phrases and feeling the difference. You say I'll instead of I will. For example, I'll do that, I'll pick it up, I'll be back. This flows much more easily. But please, a very important point here. Do not use this contraction with names. You cannot say Kate'll do that. It just sounds wrong and unnatural. The only way to say will with names is to say the whole thing. Kate will do that. This is a specific rule of spoken English. Instead of do not, you say don't. I don't like it. It's just a common way to speed up your speech. Try and say to yourself, I do not like it. Now say, I don't like it. Hear the instant difference in flow and speed? You say I've instead of I have. I've got your back. I've done this before. This is much more common than saying I have got your back. And you say I'd instead of I would. I'd like to join you. I'd like to stay home. I'd like to know. Using these contractions regularly will make your English sound much more natural and truly like a native speaker. They are the backbone of natural, informal English conversation. Our next tip is vital for both speaking clearly and understanding others. Pay close attention to stress and intonation in your speech. What do you notice right now? I've deliberately emphasized the word stress because I want your full attention on this word. Pay attention to stress. And this is something that native speakers, especially Americans, do a lot. We don't speak in a monotone. We use our voice to highlight important information. We either slow down when something really important is happening, or we make our voice louder when we want to emphasize a particular word. Or we just raise the tone of our voice when something is truly significant. You see how I highlighted truly with my voice there? So that's a big, helpful hint for you to understand natives. They will always highlight the most important word in a sentence with their intonation or the loudness of their voice. Listening for these stressed words will help you grasp the main point of what's being said, even if you miss a few other words. It's like finding the signposts in a conversation. Practice this yourself by stressing different words in a sentence and noticing how the meaning shifts. My next tip is use slang. Yes, we've learned a lot of slang words together in previous videos, but I just want to emphasize how much people actually use these slang words in everyday life. Sometimes you learn them in a textbook or from a video, and you might think, okay, whatever, maybe I won't really need to use that. But then you start interacting with native speakers, and suddenly they say something like, do you want to hang out with me? And you're thinking, what was that? Hang out? Hang out simply means to spend time together. Or they might tell you, oh, we had a blast yesterday. It was an amazing party. We're gonna have a blast. And you're wondering, what does that mean? To have a blast? To have a blast means to have a lot of fun. So please, I encourage you to rewatch my videos where I talk about slang words. They're incredibly useful and often explain the cultural context. I personally love slang because it's packed with cultural insight and shows how people really talk. Watch them, try to use them in your speech when you're speaking with native speakers. It's a great way to sound authentic and connect more easily. And just a quick important note here. If you're writing an academic essay or a very formal email, please don't use any of the informal rules or slang I've mentioned in this video. Because academic essays are all about being very formal, sometimes a little bit dry or old-fashioned, and definitely not like how you talk in real life, unfortunately. But those are the specific rules for academic writing. So it's good to know the difference and use the right language for the right situation. Now, my very last tip is learn idioms, proverbs, and sayings. This is another absolutely crucial thing to do when you're learning a foreign language. Always, always, always make an effort to learn the common idioms. They are phrases where the meaning isn't obvious from the individual words. Because if somebody says, "I'm feeling under the weather," and you're thinking, what does that mean? Is it raining on them? Are they literally standing under a storm cloud? You can't figure it out just from the words alone. To feel under the weather simply means to feel sick or unwell. But how are you supposed to figure that out if it's sunny outside, if the sun is shining and the weather is amazing? It doesn't make logical sense literally, but it's an idiom. I'm feeling a little under the weather this morning. Or another very common one, let's play it by ear. What does that mean? How can we play by ear with our hands? The only way to understand it is to learn that to play it by ear means to make a decision or plan as you go along, based on the circumstances, rather than having a fixed, rigid plan beforehand. So there are so many idioms, proverbs, and sayings that are used constantly in English that I strongly encourage you to learn. They enrich the language and are used every single day. Again, I have a lot of videos on that topic, and you can re-watch them to dive deeper into these fascinating expressions. By truly focusing on these 7 key tips, understanding and using reduced forms, choosing and consistently practicing your accent, learning to identify and use filler words wisely, mastering contractions, paying attention to stress and intonation, embracing slang, and finally, unlocking the meaning of idioms, you will not only start to speak English with more natural speed, but more importantly, with the authentic flow, rhythm, and expression of a native speaker. This will significantly improve your overall communication skills and confidence, making your English feel more alive and connected. I genuinely hope this video was incredibly helpful for you today. What's one new tip from this video that you're most excited to try out or practice? Please let me know in the comments below. I love reading your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to English Active Listening for more fantastic tips, valuable lessons, and exciting challenges to help you master English. I'll see you very soon.